Hi, friends. So it's Derek here. Let's talk about fat people. You might think, wow, I wish I was always right, like Eric, about everything important, I wish I had the correct policy prescriptions for everything like Eric did. I wish I had been right about COVID. I wish I had been right about Black Lives Matter. I wish I had been right about all sorts of things that you were wrong about before. Everybody was wrong about. I've always been right about. It's not fun being the rightest person. It's fucking frustrating. People are so stupid and wrong all the time, and they just ignore me. It's not fun being the rightest person. It's not fun being the only one who understands what the correct policy prescription for something is. After all, policy prescriptions affect us all. And mostly, you've got a bunch of morons making policy prescriptions. I'm the only one who can do it properly, apparently. It's not fun. Frustrating. I got 0 people here right now. Why? Because nobody wants to hear me rant about how I'm the rightest. But I am. That's how frustrating it is. That's how frustrating. When people's comments on this COVID shit this morning make me pissed off. Well, the problem was with the policy was that America didn't implement the policies correctly. You stupid, stupid woman. You have to make policy prescriptions based on what's actually going to happen. Not on your ideal pretend world. People do not understand basic realities. And then they make advocacies as though they do. Eccentric M say, oh, there's way more deaths than that, Eric. It doesn't matter how many deaths there are if it's 0.4%. Doesn't matter. Let it run its course. This is called intelligence, being smart, not being stupid. I said it from the get-go. Everybody ignored me. But I was right. Now smart people are beginning to go, okay, Eric, you were right about it. Dumb people are still insisting that lives matter more than anything else, even as they destroy everybody's lives. I said, what's going to happen when we start lifting the quarantine? It's going to see spikes everywhere. It's going to resume its course of action. We're going to have a pandemic again. What are we going to do? Quarantine us again? No, we can't, obviously. That's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly dumb. We treat it like we treat any other virus with the equivalent amount of fatalities, which is very, very low. And only the very old generally die from it. We accept that as part of the natural process of being a species. It's not something we get to avoid just because we're human beings. People are so dumb. I'm going to just wake up mad at the stupidity of humankind. Especially when the thing is, it's not like there isn't a voice of truth out there expressing what the right positions are. I am expressing all those things. I am winning all those arguments. Nobody should be disagreeing with me ever. Unless I'm wrong. But, in that case, they'd have a good argument. Of course, they don't. They have no good arguments. Just have feelings. My feelings, though. Fuck your feelings. I think we all know what I'm saying here, right? Just fuck your feelings. I got no business in public policy. Everybody just needs to elect Eric as president and then just listen to him. It's the only way we're ever going to accomplish anything in this world. But yeah, it's like I'm tired of being so right all the time and having just people in there just stubborn, insane wrongness push back. It's like, didn't we already cover this ground? This particular kind of stupidity, we've already covered this ground. You shouldn't be repeating it. I just want to yell at and scold everybody who's wrong about this shit till the end of my time. I just want to fucking yell at them and yell at them and yell at them. I mean, can you imagine people thinking that I'm not correct about Black Lives Matter or something? I was the pioneer of this issue way before anybody else cared about it at all. But I was smart and decent enough not to be racist about it, you know? Then Black Lives Matter came along and decided to make it into a racist thing. Wrong. That's the wrong way to go. Listen to whom? Listen to yourself? No. Listen to Eric. He's right about things. People want to tell me, well, that's bad FE, Eric. Nobody's going to listen to you take this attitude. Frankly, I don't give a fuck. Frankly, I do not give a fuck. Cloud, let me make this very clear. My problem is an actual problem. You are one of the examples of the people who's persistently dumb in the face of my smartness. It is not the case that you are too smart. It's not the case that I'm too smart. The real problem is I'm too right all the time. Not too smart. Too right. You are definitely not too right any of the time. That's definitely not the case. Okay? You might be too smart, but you're not too right. Okay? Let's agree on that at least. You are extremely, extremely wrong most of the time. So I am, however, too right for my own good. Cloud, I'm not here to talk about you and your wrongness. I'm here to talk about me and my rightness. And how if we want to have a good society, we need to listen to Eric, because Eric is always right about everything, substantive as a policy issue. I'm not always right about everything in life. I'm only always right about policy issues. So when it comes to public policy, we need to listen to Eric and put away our own inclinations that we know anything. Because you don't. Obviously. Or you wouldn't be advocating such wrongness in the first place. I've been talking about BLM being wrong from the very fucking get-go too, Cloud. I was the advocate of police reform before anybody had ever heard of Black Lives Matter. Well, it is the most insidious racism because it's well-intentioned. There's nothing contradictory about that, Cloud. Those two things are coordinated with each other. They're complementary. The reason it's so insidious is because it's well-intentioned racism. See, this is an example of my correctness. Another example of it. And, you know, it's like I don't care about the fucking FE. I don't care. I am tired of just being right all the time and everybody just ignoring me. So, you know, that's the topic of this video. I was right about COVID. I'm right about BLM. I've been right about every substantive issue anybody's ever asked me about as far as policy prescriptions go. I'm right about abortion. Right about taxes. I'm right about everything. I'm right about non-consensual crime. You know, I'm right about Redistribution needed to be made in cash payments, not in-kind benefits. I'm right about the need to get rid of all means testing. I don't say police are bad. I say the police need to respect the rights and the life and the limb and the liberty of people, even when they forfeit their rights. That they have a professional, proactive duty to not take advantage of opportunities to hurt people. And I'm not saying I'm so smart. I'm saying I'm so right, Cloud. Don't mistake those two words. They're different. No, just because the police need to be reformed doesn't mean the police in general are bad. It doesn't mean that, and you're just being a groupist. Each individual is an individual. There are good police officers and bad police officers. I agree that the current incarnation of the police system is such that it doesn't punish police adequately when they use excessive use of force. That in particular needs to be reformed. But that doesn't mean the police are bad. Holla back, Alan Bryan. And so, Cloud, here's an example of me again being correct about something and articulating the correctness to you, but you choosing not to internalize it. My view on taxes is that to the extent that they're designed for wealth redistribution, that wealth redistribution needs to be done in form of cash payments, not in-kind benefits. So there should be no means testing, and cash payments should be given to everybody the same, equally, even if you're rich or poor. It's just that they'll take a lot more money in taxes from the rich inevitably, you know? I agree the us versus them mentality is not a good thing. I agree that police unions are a substantial problem, okay? Police unions have always been incredibly supportive of every police officer, no matter how atrocious the action they took is. The police unions are a serious problem. That's something you can actually point to as being a problem, because it's an advocate who's advocating the wrong thing. The fact that the existing system produces bad instances some of the time does not prove inherently that there's something wrong with the system, just that it needs to be improved. Well, I do tend to favor a UBI over any other kind of redistribution as benefit. So if we were going to fund UBI with the existing funding mechanisms, we'd have to get rid of Medicare, Medicaid, all the social programs, and then redirect all those funds towards UBI. And that would be great. That would be a much better way of taxing and redistributing wealth than the current methodologies. I think we're spending too much on things like military as well. We don't need to be spending that much on the military. Although I don't want to gut it or anything. But yeah, I have been a long time, long before anybody else even thought about it as an issue, I was advocating police reform because they were killing people and getting away with it. And they've been doing it for decades. So, I mean, the point is, it infuriates me no, Ethan, that's a terrible fucking idea. It infuriates me when people take the correct issue that I've been yelling about for years, finally, irrelevant of what I've been saying, learn that I was right, ignore that I was right, ignore that I've been saying it for years, and then have it get co-opted by a bunch of racists. It's incredibly infuriating. Teachers' unions are terrible too. Unions in general are bad. They take away from meritocracy. There are lots of incredibly terrible teachers out there. Let people treat each other by their own rules. That's might makes right, Ethan McDonald. Treat each other by their own rules. Well, I'm the strongest, so I'm going to take your stuff and nothing you can do about it. Unless you want to start a feud and come over and shoot me later, you know. No, we need cops. And we need the cops to be effective, good professionals who don't hurt people when they have the opportunity to out of an excitement to hurt them. which is what I see happening a lot with cops, you know? Now, the problem there is also government work, right? When you got teachers unions, you're talking about government work. And good enough for government work is a real problem. How would you distinguish between the words relevant and appropriate? Well, relevant means that a given point is on the right ground. In other words, topical. Appropriate means situationally correct, usually for FE reasons. Aren't we protecting the common good? No. Look, see, this is a big mistake that people make about police. Police are there to enforce the laws when individuals commit crimes against people or property. Why do I care about something if I'm right and articulated once? Because at the end of the day, I do care about impacts. And I do want to see the world be a better place. And I also am a human being. I get angry because people need to stop using their feelings when it comes to public policy. That's it. As simple as that. People need to stop using their feelings when it comes to public policy. Public policy is not an appropriate realm for FI users. It just isn't. FI1, FI2, they shouldn't vote. May sound controversial, but they shouldn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't allow them to, but they shouldn't. They should choose not to. They should understand they are not thinking correctly for public policy and choose not to vote. So I've talked before about this one viral video I saw of this cop who there was this guy chasing down the street with a sword, trying to slash him with a sword. The cop was running away backwards like this with his gun out, saying, "I don't want to shoot you. I don't want to shoot you." And eventually, he managed to grab the guy. TI is not just as biased as FI. That's absolutely not true. TI is a function in which you pay attention to what's defensible argumentationally. In other words, to what resonates universally logically. FE is what resonates universally socially. So absolutely TI is not biased. TI is the act of being unbiased, to take a disinterested perspective on something and decide what is best if you didn't have an interest in it. Well, no, I've chosen which logic. No, I didn't choose. No, I didn't choose that, Ethan. I'm specifying we're talking about public policy. So what matters, what is argumentationally defensible universally matters because it's public policy. It's implicit to the definition of the thing that because it's public, we have to care about what's universally defensible to get disinterested calculus. Now, it is true that there are aspects of human existence that TI does not account for, namely interested aspects. And that's a good thing because it's public policy. It's supposed to be a disinterested matter in which logic can't be chosen. The correct answer is the correct answer is the correct answer. It's not something I choose. It is what it is. The reason I'm the most correct is because I'm not attached to any of my positions. I'm attached to being correct. So I only choose those positions which are most defensible, most universally resonant as true logically, not necessarily universally resonant socially. Like, note, I have 8 people here. Why? Because most people don't want to hear somebody say how right they are and how wrong everybody else is. Because it's bad FE. Cloud, you are right about life in general, but you keep ignoring what I'm saying here, which is we're talking specifically about public policy advocacy. So in that case, you're wrong. Is relevance a TI issue or an NI issue? Relevance is a TI issue, but determinants is an NI issue. So, for example, Alan Bryan, let's say I gave a speech and it didn't go well. And there were 6 things that could be explained as to why it didn't go well. All of them relevant. My fly was down. I had a spot on my tie. I had bad timing on one of the jokes. I may have gone a little too fast in a couple spots. And there was a big piece of broccoli stuck on my face. Now, NI tells us the other things are irrelevant. It's this big piece of broccoli on your face the whole time that is the determinant factor as to why your speech went bad. All those things are relevant. That's what TI tells us. But NI tells us that broccoli is the actual reason, and the other things were small factors. That's the difference between NI and TI right there. Okay, NI knows what's determinant. TI knows what's relevant. Now, the thing is, ENTPs have to spend some time developing and working on their NI. Something that helped me develop my NI a lot was debate and debate coaching, because debate is all about not winning the most arguments, but winning the arguments with the most impacts. So I have had my moments where I've come up with less successful cases. Good case making is about finding the NI arguments. So, no, this is not my presidential speech. This is my frustration speech. Well, as I've said, I'm frustrated. The frustration about being right is if no one listens to you, does it really matter? An ENFP once told an INFP. Isn't it obvious that some reasons are more impacting than others? Does that statement and NI statement? Well, it's not at all obvious to a lot of people how the mechanics of that work. So, for example, framework always trickles down like cascading style sheets do. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for your positive regard. I appreciate it. My dad is NI polar, so he will do things like, say, well, I had these 4 things, and there was this big piece of broccoli on my face, and I'm not sure which thing it is. I'm like, Dad, it's definitely that, okay? It's definitely not these other things. And he's like, well, you don't know that, son. I do know that, Dad. I can't defend it on TI reducible grounds. Doesn't mean I don't know that. I know that with my intuition, my NI. How is TI more objective than TE, or is it? Well, TE is technically not objective or subjective because it's not a deliberation function, but we have to remember that we use objective and subjective to describe 2 different kinds of things, basically. Right, you don't have first slot NI necessarily. No, Raphael. Just because your NI is every ENTP's NI is decent at least. 5th slot's pretty strong. Anyway, TE, it references objective data and it references a subjective criterion for success. So you could say it's both. FE references subjective data, but it evaluates it with a disinterested calculus. So you could say it's both. But I think of TE as being more subjective because I think of the calculus as being the framework, and therefore it's the top level thing. So it decides whether the thing is objective or subjective. But if you wanted to think of it the other way around, you could say TE is more objective because it deals with objective data, whereas FE is less objective because it deals with subjective data. Regardless, they're both objective on one end and subjective on the other end. Um, well, I think they're no, Cloud. The answer to that question is no. I think six slot is demonstrative. You see it in terms of frequency of seeing somebody demonstrate it. You see it quite a bit out of somebody, but they never like it, especially, and so they never particularly value getting better at it. Whereas people improve in life in their third and fourth slots. That's where people improve. As you grow older, you have the chance to. You could also devolve, but you'll change in your third and fourth slots. And if you mature well and optimize, then you'll get better in your third and fourth slots. Right now is a step backwards on the FE improvement for me. It's what I used to do all the time, which is put up provocative titles about how wrong people were and how right I was, and God damn it, how mad I am, and stuff like that. But if something works universally, isn't that a better check with the universal truth than the own thought process? Something working universally is not TE. Okay? Something working universally is not TE. Now, note, if my subjective goal is to make a phone that sells really well, and I come up with the iPhone, then I've had good TE. But if you know anything about technology, you realize an iPhone's not good TE. An iPhone is terrible TE. In other words, it doesn't give you its utility, all the utility it has available right away. It makes you wait and buy a new phone every year to get a new thing that comes out on it. And you don't have nearly as much control or access to things, or in general being able to manage stuff as you do on like an Android, which is a better phone. So did Steve Jobs have great TE? Yes, he did, because his goal was subjective. It was the interests of Apple. It was not what was most universally effective. If his goal had been what was most universally effective, he would have put out a phone that had all of the various features they could come up with all right away, not make people wait for it. That would have been better TE from my perspective, but worse TE from their perspective. That's what makes TE an interested calculus, and that's what makes me call it more subjective ultimately than FE. TE depends on the framework in which you view a thing. TI does not. This argument I'm making is logically valid, regardless of regardless of the framework, because it's talking. Communicative defensibility is universal. There are two aspects of universal defensibility. One is logical defensibility, and one is social defensibility. And the social defensibility is FE. Are ENFPs more cold than T-ish? Than what? Than ESFPs? Oh, than ENTPs? No, I would say they're much less T-ish, but they're less open. They're less open and less agreeable. But that goes along with being more feely. Kinesthetic defensibility? What would that be? What would that be? Well, the thing is, if you're saying in the framework of the universe something is TE appropriate, then you're ignoring the fact that TE is a manner of attention somebody pays to attain a certain outcome that they want. And that's all it ever is. Yeah, I agree. ENFPs are more, well, they're more individualistic in their affect, but less individualistic in their politics. Oh yeah, TI is, well, it's validity is implicit to grammar. It's implicit to the statement connectives and, or, and if then, and not. And if and only if. Because and or mean different things. Well, what I mean by affect is an ENFP will engage in the world in ways that require them to be less group-minded than ENTPs. And so that will display in their extroverted personality, their hey, here's who I am thing, ENFPs, hey, here's who I am, includes more what you might call non-group stuff. And so they're going to be present a little less often. They're going to be hanging out a little bit less. They're going to care about the group a little bit less. But in their politics, they're going to think they're prioritizing the group more by advocating bad policies that hurt everybody. But because they're TI polar, they don't know that. Well, the thing is, Raphael, just as there are two kinds of universal validation, social and logical, there are two kinds of logical validation, validity and soundness. Validity is about the grammatical correctness of the thing, as say using and or correctly, but it relies on this other quality for us to evaluate it called truth. And truth is not universal. Truth is a status we afford to statements, and we can do so situationally or conditionally. What language allows us to do is to assign the value of truth to a statement conditionally and see what happens. And so that's how logic works. ENTPs, hey. These eyes being rolled in good-natured, sensible chuckles. I mean, the thing is, ENTPs can be very likable, but we can also be very abrasive, as I was being earlier, as I kind of vented out all my anger right now. So, but you wake up mad about COVID. Who doesn't? That's my FI coming in and making me make mistakes. Making me make FE mistakes. I don't really like math very much. I mean, when shit gets too mathy, I just go. ENTP brother swings his penis around to make the situation awkward. Literally? You sure he's not an ESTP or an ESFP? Yes, I know. ENTPs can be a little awkward. I certainly can be a little awkward. I'm noisy. I'm noisy when I'm happy. I'm noisy when I'm mad. I'm noisy when I'm funny. I'm noisy when I'm sad. Actually, I'm not noisy when I'm sad. No, it's SI polar to not care about your body. FI polar is to not care about your feelings. The funny thing is, not eating your sexual partners? Wow, Cloud. Do you have some sort of special ritual to hide each other's genitals before you have sexual intercourse with somebody? Well, you don't show them to everyone. My mistake. You said you don't show them to anyone. That makes more sense, not showing them to everyone. But I gotta say, I don't think that they need to be defined for you to not want to show them to everyone. I think that's just normal, pretty much. A tricky situation. My ENTP described his girlfriend of 7 years breaking up with them as a tricky situation. All right, let me take my temperament test. I'm going to tell you what my temperament is. Mad. I am usually serene and not easily angered or irritated. I would agree with that, actually. I think so. I've often been called a quiet person. No. I prefer working alone, doing groups. Neutral. I don't like loud parties. Disagree. I enjoy meeting new people. Agree. My mood is often rather hostile or sad. Disagree. I sometimes feel miserable or angry for no reason. No. I always have a reason. My feelings are easily hurt or disappointed. No, not. It's possible to hurt my feelings. I'll put it down here. I rarely regret anything I've done. No, I disagree with that. I usually take the initiative of making new friends. Agree? Agree, medium? I'm somewhat reserved. Disagree. I'm finding myself thinking that I'm just fed up with it all. Disagree. I am not one to be knocked out or irritated by bad news. Disagree a little bit. I'm a talkative person. Agree. I'm not easily embarrassed or enraged. Agree. Medium agree. I'm a lively person. Agree. Sanguine. I got 68.74% extroverted and 50% stable. Carefree, lively, easygoing, talkative, outgoing, sociable. I'm sanguine. I think that Rachel is phlegmatic. Winston's mom, are you choleric? Are you choleric, Winston's mom? Cloud, you've got to be choleric. Mom might be sanguine, actually. You're phlegmatic? My connection is unstable. Oh, unstable. Now we're back. Morage, you're phlegmatic, calm, gentle, reliable. Yeah. So many labels. I know. So many words, right? You're pleasantly apathetic. I'm choleric. Sometimes my internet's